Hello woolly thistlers, it's Rachel from Croft here in Fair Isle. And just look what weather we've been having in July. Gone was the sunshine that we had in June, and it was almost as though we'd gone straight into autumn as soon as the calendar page turned. The only good thing to happen at the start of July was that after months and months of being without a vehicle, I finally got a new wheel for my car, which was great. And then less than 3 weeks later, the brakes completely failed on it. So we're back to Shanks's pony. The wet weather meant that Grace had to come inside, but Humpty made sure he kept her company overnight so she didn't get lonely. I'd been so hopeful for Grace making a full recovery from losing the use of her legs, but unfortunately she went downhill. I would go and sit with her at night just to check on her, and one night, as I was sitting with her, her body just decided to give up and she slipped away. The weather did not let up, and looking at this clip now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was November rather than the middle of summer. Would you believe it? I even had the fire lit because it was so cold and damp in the house. I really hope you've enjoyed taking part in the sock sprint recently. A few years ago, this was the very first pair of socks that I knitted, and I loved the pattern so much that I just recently knit myself a second pair. The yarn that I used is called Croft by West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's an Aran or worsted weight. And I can highly recommend both the pattern and the yarn. The next project I've begun is this lovely cable work kind of cape, which was from an article in the Knitter magazine. I'm using Jamieson's of Shetland Marl, which is a chunky weight yarn, and it's in this lovely gooseberry colourway. Finally, we got a day of good weather, so my first job of the day was to head down to the shop, and here's just some of the view as I walk down. Then it was back to clipping, and here I am with Fandango, who was very chilled out through the whole thing. So chilled out that when I'd untied her so that she could go, she was quite happy just to lie there and relax. I think it must have been a nice soft bed for her. Yeah, your fleece. Brandywine liked to keep an eye on what I was doing and was particularly interested in this fleece. As it had been such a nice day, I felt sure that we'd be in for a good sunset too. So I headed up to Northlight and sat and watched the sun go down and took some photos and a time-lapse video clip for you. There weren't too many puffins around, but I did spot this little guy, and although the photos aren't very good quality, hopefully you can make out that he has a beak full of sand eels ready to feed his family with. This little rabbit also popped out to say hello. It's been lovely to see the irises starting to open, and really thrilling to see my herbs and strawberries doing well in their pots. I clearly jinxed things in my last episode by saying that I hope to have all the sheep sheared by the end of July. Unfortunately, this has been the weather for a lot of July. Grey, wet and foggy. When we do get a dry day, the sheep barely have chance to dry out and for me to start clipping before it's wet again. Looking on a positive side though, I've been quite glad of the miserable weather because for all of July I've been back doing my old admin job working for Shetland Nature, which is a wildlife tour company based in Shetland. I've just been covering my friend Susanna, who now does that job whilst she and her family had a well-deserved holiday. The cats have pretty much refused to leave the bedroom, but when it's been wet outside, it's been a great opportunity to catch up on the woolly thistle and get some knitting done. Meg got rather overexcited when she spotted Mary, Minnie Milk and Rosebud on the television. Every day now she likes to round up Sylvia and bring her over to me. Sylvia just takes it all in her stride, isn't bothered in the slightest. But as I say to Meg, if you can do this with hens and cats, why on earth can't you do it with the sheep? In spite of the dull and gloomy weather, we had the first of our hill cars. This is where we gather all of the free-roaming sheep that live in the north of the Isle and bring them down to the crew or the enclosure, and then we can check on them, make sure the lambs are doing okay and shear or clip the sheep. There you go, Mega. I spotted my old friend Pirate Sheep. I call her that because it looks like she's got a pirate's eye patch. Of course, it's sod's law that the days we have good weather are days that I've been on duty at the museum. And on this particular day, I checked the forecast, 0% chance of rain the entire day, and so put my laundry out. And when I finally got home, this was the weather. We had several cruise ship visits throughout the month of July, and it's been great to meet so many different people from all around the world. I was so excited though when the Island Princess came in and I met a real life woolly thistler in person. I think your name was Annie. It was so nice to meet you, and if you're watching this, then hello and thank you so much for visiting the museum that day. July is also the month that baling tends to get done on the Isle. This is where the grass that we've been growing since May gets cut, dried to a point, and then wrapped into bales, and we use that to feed the sheep through the winter. So here's Ian on the tractor just cutting the first lot. Baling this year hasn't been a particularly enjoyable experience. I won't go into too many details about it here as I don't feel it's the right platform, but I will talk about it in my next Patreon video. Last year I got 202 bales in total from my 3 silage parks. This year I've only got 134, so I'm already fighting a losing battle, as you can imagine. At the end of July, you can see that already the nights are starting to draw in. I think this was about 10:30 at night, and that's the moon just rising there. There's Mary, Minnie Milk and Rosebud with Humpty. And this black mass moving along is naughty Lancelot, who decided to join them. Minnie Milk somehow managed to nick his ear. I'm not sure whether he got it caught in the fence or what, but he's absolutely fine, and he's had some magic blue spray on to make it better. With all my time in July being taken up either by working for Shetland Nature or trying to get sheep clipped, my vegetable patch has really suffered, and I've really struggled to keep on top of the weeds. As you can see, that side I didn't have anything planted apart from my squashes, which actually seem to be doing okay, which is very exciting, and they're starting to get some flowers on them. Strawberries and herbs are doing pretty well. I'm really pleased with them. And look, my first strawberry, and it tasted really good, I have to say. Sadly, some naughty sheep decided to break in to where I have Blossom's grave and had planted some flowers. So unfortunately, all the sweet peas are gone. The violet cress has been decimated, but hopefully some of it might continue to grow. Before I go, I just wanted to thank you all so very much for all the kind comments you put on my last video about Merrylegs. I was so incredibly touched to receive in the post this beautiful painting of little Merrylegs by one of my very kind patrons. It really was such a thoughtful gesture, and I hope they don't mind me sharing it on here with you. Thank you.